According to Yoko Ono, she didn't know who the Beatles were before she randomly met John Lennon in 1966, despite the Beatles being the biggest band on the planet. Also, John Lennon said Yoko hadn't heard of the Beatles before they met. However, this is proven not to be true.
And then she came up and said she didn't know who I was and was saying, do you like to hammer a nail in? It's 5 shillings. So I said,
You didn't want to pay.
I didn't have any money either, so I said, I'll hammer an imaginary nail in and give you an imaginary 5 shilling. And she agreed to that. She accepted that on the same basis as we accept her work. You know, I'd accepted her work, and that was how we met, actually.
She did admit to Dick Cavett years later having heard of Ringo, as in Japanese Ringo means apple. Yoko was literate, well-educated, was consumed with and existed in the art community, mostly lived in the US, New York City, and in England, London, two world-class cultural centers before she met Lennon. The Beatles were not only A-listers, they were A-plus listers, all over TV, radio and news, their photos all over magazines and newspapers. Every city in every country the Beatles toured in required a police security detail, as they were instantly recognizable. This emphatically includes Japan in mid-1966, though Yoko had long since emigrated. Also, it is well known that Paul McCartney met Yoko before John, through his friend Barry Miles, who, with John Dunbar, operated the Indica bookshop and gallery. Miles ran the bookshop, Dunbar the gallery. Paul was involved with the bookshop gallery since its inception, as it was founded in part by Peter Asher, and Paul lived with the Asher family at the time. In the film How the Beatles Changed the World, Dunbar is interviewed and explains how Yoko came to his attention while still a fairly unknown artist. They had space available in their schedule and he offered to present her work. It was only after the show was scheduled that John, possibly by Paul, was invited to attend. They specifically told Yoko that John would be coming and might purchase her work. As far as his art appreciation, prior to his involvement with Yoko, John was known to dismiss McCartney's interest in avant-garde music and art by saying, "Avant-garde is French for shit." In Paul's book The Lyrics, 1956 to the present, he said he'd known Yoko Ono since she had arrived in London in the mid-1960s. There's also an entry in Mal's diary, Living the Beatles Legend, The Untold Story of Mal Evans, that says Yoko approached Paul to be in her Bottoms film, which it seems he declined. Also, in an interview with Howard Stern, Paul McCartney recalls a story about meeting Yoko first. McCartney has stated that he first met Ono earlier in 1965 when she was in London compiling musical manuscripts for a John Cage book called Notations, at which point he declined to donate one of his manuscripts but suggested that perhaps Lennon might be interested in doing so. He was, and he did, donating the song sheets for The Word from Rubber Soul, and he was also instantly captivated by the charismatic Yoko. Supposedly, Paul acted as a go-between the meeting. Once John found out about it, that she was going to be at an art show at the Indica Gallery, he was enthusiastic about it. So he went to it, and the rest is history. Paul, it seems, had some magical matchmaking qualities about getting or bringing those two together. In later years, it was Paul who intervened, which got John to get back with Yoko at Madison Square Garden in New York City at the world-famous Elton John Thanksgiving Day evening show.